Oh, Casey Gregerson, he's a badass. We appreciate him a lot. Casey, come on down. Casey Gregerson, you have the floor, my guy. Now, you are the last person of the evening. Have you learned anything from the previous contestants?
Absolutely. There's many advantages to going last, so yeah.
All right, let's, Casey, you got the floor, my brother.
Absolutely. Well, start off with gratitude to both of you guys. I mean, going back to working, I've worked with other people in self-directed IRAs, and I remember listening to your Zooms years ago, Pace, and talking about like what a powerful audience it was to do deals with, right? But like, how do you get in front of them? So I just wanted to thank you guys for providing this opportunity. It's a dream come true, and just kind of hairs on standing up on my arms for this opportunity. So thank you guys so much for that.
Of course. Yeah.
You bet. Okay. So kind of go into my story, my journey, right? So you guys see the first logo here. That's for Shell. So I started working with Shell back in 2011. All right. So I always, this is kind of a funny joke, right? But I would say 3 months ago, there was probably not too many people who understand what it looks like to work in oil and gas, right? But now, if you guys have seen Landman, you know
that thing is blown up.
Yeah. That is, and guys, it's crazy. That is picture that. That was what I lived for like 12 years, literally in West Texas. That's where I was working. It is crazy how factual it is. So if you guys have seen that, you could probably, what I'm about to tell you probably won't shock you, but working out there was a lot of things I love, but I started to ask myself this question. And the question was, but what if I didn't have to be out here in the field for 2 weeks away from my family? What if I didn't have to be out here on a dangerous rig or flying on a helicopter out to a platform? What if I didn't have to be in this volatile industry that was laying people off like year over year over year? So as I asked myself that question, it's really what was one of the catalysts to becoming an entrepreneur. And one of the first things I did was I opened a Pure Barre franchise. So if you guys know what Pure Barre is, it's a women's fitness, it's a boutique fitness studio. So at one point, we actually had 7 of those spanning from Midland out to Houston, all the way to San Diego, California, believe it or not. So that was a great business. It taught me a ton about how to run a business, how to be a leader, how to do, and one of the biggest ones was marketing and sales and marketing, right? As surprising or not, as an engineer, we didn't learn a whole lot about sales and marketing, right? But I learned it through running that business. And I really parlayed that into real estate because while I love that business, it wasn't my true passion. What I found was my true passion was real estate. So back in this 2011, it was actually 2010, I bought my first rental property up in Laramie, Wyoming. So I grew up in Wyoming, went to school there. And I bought my first property. My dad actually helped co-sign on the first house. It's a really neat story, right? So I was house hacking back in 2010, right? People are still doing it today. But that was the first property. And one of the advantages, though, that oil and gas gave me is when I worked that 2 week on, 2 week off schedule, that allowed me 2 weeks to go. I didn't have to open my work phone or open my work computer. I could actually go start investing in real estate. So I started fixing and flipping, buying rental properties, and really starting to grow a portfolio. And what I found as I started to become part of, I started surrounding myself in other masterminds and getting around communities like this. And what I realized was in Wyoming, I had this really unique niche, right? Everybody raise their hands if you guys knew somebody that invested in Wyoming before today. Anybody?
None, nobody does.
Yeah, not many people, right? Little competition, but there's still a lot of demand. A lot of people are moving there and still want to live there. And case in point, 4 or 5 years ago, before I started my wholesale company, there were no wholesalers, right? I would have loved to start buying from a wholesaler, but there was none. So we started and went and built out my wholesale company, which today is WYO Houses. So now that helps bring in all the lead flow to us, right? So I got to look at all the deals first and figure out, hey, what is the best way that we can monetize this new lead, okay? So the other part is, I'm sure Pace will appreciate, we talked about earlier, is construction, right? So as I started to scale and do more deals, managing general contractors. It was a huge bottleneck. So what I did early on, as soon as I had enough flips going and enough rental properties to manage, I went and hired somebody internally that could manage all my stuff. And in Wyoming, it is contractors are challenging anywhere, but in Wyoming especially, there's not as many of them. That actually creates a lot of demand in Wyoming because they're not building enough properties to keep up with demand, right? So what I had to do was I had to go recruit these guys. So today, as I show here on the slide, I have 4 different crews, and I don't think my other slide, I had a slide showing them, but I don't have it here, but I'll go back. But I have 4 different crews today that are working across Wyoming. Some of them are actually helping me out in Montana as well. But this is now my Revive construction company, and it's one when I think about my business and when I think about working with other investors, this is one of the biggest game changers because, I mean, it gives me predictability, not only when it comes to budgeting and hitting time, but it's hitting timelines, right? Time is money when you're fixing and flipping. And when you're working with a GC, he's got 5 other jobs, right? But when I have my own in-house guys, I can decide, all right, this one needs to get done now because we need to hit the market. It's July and we need to get on the market because if we don't hit the market now, come August, September, this thing is going to be sitting. So having that control was big for me. Now, the third part of our vertical integration that I built was property management. Okay, so that first house I told you guys back in 2011, I was a property manager, right? I was house hacking, and I still own that property today, and I own 250 other doors. But these properties, guys, I'm still managing them today. But is it me managing it? No. Now I've been able to build out a team of virtual assistants. It's really cool, actually. They're worldwide, from the Philippines to Mexico. They manage all 250 units, like literally everything other than the boots on the ground, like repairs of the properties. They actually, so all those, so I mentioned I have these 4 teams now of contractors. They're the ones, if we need somebody to go out and look at a property, they're the ones that go out. And I didn't even mention this yet. I live in Houston, Texas, right? And I invest all over Wyoming, and now we do the surrounding states. But I do that because of the competition level, right? So building out this vertically integrated company took me about 6 to 7 years. And as I built it, I really enjoyed that. But what I really found about myself, as I kind of reflected, was I really enjoyed helping people, right? I wanted to help more people get into real estate. And that's one of the things I'm most thankful that Pace gave me an opportunity to do, was lead problems to profits. So I approached Pace about a year ago on this to do this Zoom. And we went back and forth, and he had some really good ideas and helped guide me. And we started it. And this has been such a cool experience. Every Friday we meet, and it's supposed to be 2 hours. Sometimes we're going 4 to 5 hours long because these students are bringing deals and we're calling people live, and they're bringing these problems, right? And we're turning them into profits. So as I showed you guys on the bottom of the screen too, my goal this year is to do 100 deals. So, and I want to hear some shout outs if there's any sub 2 students that do problems to profits in the chat. I want to hear from you guys, but I've told these guys that my goal is to do 100 deals this year. 50 of those are going to come from my WYO Houses company. And then I want 50 of them to come from students, actually doing deals with students. So it's really exciting.
Oh yeah, you got a bunch of people in here saying, hey, Casey, you're the bomb.
Awesome. Yeah, I figured. I love it, man. You've created this awesome community, and just it's so much energy working with those people.
It's the best. It's honestly, the secret hack was attracting awesome leaders like you that we all span over the whole country, and we lead this amazing, the whole industry. It's awesome.
Absolutely. So that's the first group I love helping. The second group is people that were the people that I worked with, right? And they're people, I think, that are listening today with self-directed RA. People that they don't necessarily want to go build a vertically integrated company, right? Not many people want to go cold call. Not many people want to run a sales company. I mean, we're spending $40,000 a month in marketing to get leads. Not many people want to do that, right? And they definitely don't want to go manage contractors, right? It's plenty of headaches, like leave that to us, okay? And the third thing is property management. And it's been crazy after working with a lot of investors, how many people, like it is insane to me how many people won't get started in real estate just because they're like, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to manage tenants, right? But now because we've created these vertically integrated companies and birthed my fund, Bighorn Capital Fund, now we can give our investors the opportunities that I have now with a vertically integrated company. So you guys can tell I'm excited about it, but it's man, it really gets me going. So before, okay, so I want to go in, before I go into the pitch, I want to go just a little bit deeper into like how many people I wanted to help. So my goal, my Mount Everest goal, is to help 100 families achieve their financial freedom. Right? So why is this so passionate to me? I want to share my story, but first I want to give you guys, go back to the question that I asked you earlier. Right? I asked myself the question when I was working in the field in oil and gas. I said, but what if I didn't have to be out here for 2 weeks and be away from my family? And I want you guys to ask, because I think a lot of you guys are probably in this situation, but what if I didn't have to choose work or my business or my W-2 job or whatever? What if I didn't have to choose that before my family, right? That's why financial freedom is so powerful. And to share just a quick 30-second story of how I left my W-2 job 2 years ago, because it was the best gig ever. I was making $200,000 a year for Shell. I was working 21 straight days in the office. Like, I'm not in the field anymore. I'm like in the office, 5 minutes away from my family and kids every day, right? So I go for 21 days straight. And then I have 21 days off. So I'm working half the year. I'm
Holy
getting
crap.
best of both worlds, right?
That's amazing.
Yeah. But here's what
Are they hiring?
That's right. I know. I still kick myself. But here's the reason why, guys. I was working a 2 p.m. to 2 a.m. shift, right? And I was missing all of the most important stuff with my young kids. I've got 4 boys now, and one of my biggest passions is coaching them and being there for them. And I was missing all those games. And I'll never forget the conversation with my wife. I'm getting the chills right now. Is like, I'm not going to miss these. I'm not going to go back and look at my deathbed and be like, oh man, I'm glad I stayed those extra 2 years for Shell and missed all those games, right? It was super passionate for me. So I share the story with you guys because I had financial freedom, I was able to make that choice. And that's why I want to help 100 people be able to be in that same position. All right, guys, let's get into the actual offering today. So I went back and forth before I share the offering. I went back and forth between equity and debt because I actually have a customizable fund that allows me to do both. But what I finally settled on after much deliberation, going back and forth literally for about the last 2 weeks, Birdie knows, Birdie and me, we're bouncing back and forth. But what it came down to is what is simplest and easiest to understand. And really, when I'm working with these 100 different investors or people that want to achieve their passive income goal, one of the easiest way for them to get started, and this is especially if somebody's brand new to real estate, or maybe they just don't know me and they're getting to know me first, it's hard to go in and do a long-term equity deal, right? And it's you can do it, but you got to have some experience and you want to know your operator. So what has worked really well for me is getting those people and doing debt deals, because a lot of those people down the road, they end up doing equity deals first. So that's the one I wanted to share with you guys today and kind of roll through this, okay? So I want to keep a super simple offering and make it flexible. So what we do is we're paying 12% as a continuous offering debt fund. Now, and it's a 25K minimum. Again, I wanted to make it low because there's just, I'm sure you've seen it too, Matt. There's a lot of people that when they get in where they want to dip their toe in of maybe 25K, but they've got a lot more capital, right? But they want to get to know you and see that you perform, right? So that's why I kept my minimum low and we made it flexible. So my fund, you got to commit to at least 6 months, but after that, you could actually make a request to withdrawal within 90 days to give them flexibility. Because I also find, and again, came from years of raising capital, asking somebody to go commit for 5 years and commit their funds. There's a lot of people who love it, but there's also some people that are like, hey, can we just do something a little shorter term, or at least have that optionality, right? So that's why I created this fund, to have flexibility. We also do quarterly distributions and then timing. I've already got some soft commitments already now in Q1, and we're gonna be launching this in Q1. And what's it for, right? So before we go to our case studies, why do I need this capital? Why did I design it? So I shared with you guys my goal to do 100 deals this year. So to do 100 deals, that's 100 different potential private money lenders or hard money lenders or different banks, right? We do a ton of creative deals. We do a lot of sub-2 flips, right? But I wanted to figure out a more streamlined way to do this, right? And that's why I created this fund, to where now we can bring in multiple deals and actually cross-collateralize them and do multiple deals at a time. The other kicker was I've worked with banks and I've worked with private money lenders and hard money lenders and created a lot of relationships. But back to the goal of helping 100 people, if I can be giving those people 12% versus giving it to some hard money lender, right? Or some shark of a hard money. If you guys have worked with some hard money lenders, they're tough. There's some good ones and not so good ones, right? But I would rather give that to people that I'm actually helping my passion of helping 100 people. So that's why I thought it was a true win-win to be able to bring people in that could invest, and I could start to cut out some of these hard money lenders and ultimately hit my goal of doing 100 deals this year. So with that, I want to go to you guys, the case studies. I'm not going to go too deep here. I actually shared a QR code. So anybody who's watching right now, if you guys go to that QR code, it's going to take you to our website, right? And when you go to the website, you can actually go see our track record. And this is one of the favorite things I like to share with our new investors, right? I'll click on it now so you guys can see it. But what I did after feedback from raising capital from people way smarter than me that had way more years of experience doing funds was, you basically said, Casey, if you can't go and show me settlement statements, photos, like when they bought it, if you can't show me all that stuff, then it really didn't happen, right? So I built out this Google sheet that I share with all our investors. There's 120 different deals that we've done. We talk about their settlement statements. There's all that in there. I talk about how much the investor put in, what was their return, and all that. So that's a really good resource for you guys to go check out. I'm definitely not going through 120 right now, but it's a resource you guys have. And if I go back to my case studies, I've got a couple other ones. These are other ones I've done in my fund. One's a debt, one's an equity. And the reason I'm putting them out there, and we can dive into them if you guys would like, but I wanted to put them out there because at the end of the day, I want to just connect with more people who are, like I said, I want to help 100 people achieve their passive income goal. I want to start that conversation. And if that starts out by investing in our debt fund, great. But a lot of the people, they want to go and look at an equity deal. And if you guys want to look at that together, I'd love to. So with that, I'll open it up to questions.
That's phenomenal, by the way, the case studies. What a great hack that very few people actually do. It just shows that you care about your track history. It also shows that you're an engineer because, you know, it's so, I mean, bro, that's so good. Is that you have addresses, settlement statements, legal docs. Here's the thing. Here's what the investor got. That kills so many questions. Kills so many.
Absolutely.
Yeah, is that, it does track to those verifiable documents, that thing, so I can click that and view a doc.
Bingo. Go right to the settlement statement. It's like a vault. And like, I'm a spreadsheet guy.
And that was with the Bison deal. Last name is Bison, but it's called Bison.
Yeah, because people can't pronounce, even if, and
American, I saw the animal, a bison.
Yeah, it's because everybody calls the Bison family the Bison family. Yeah. So they just decided, let's just lean into it.
I get it. Okay. So I just want to make sure I wasn't, getting it wrong, guys. But yeah, but the Bison, right? They have like a data room basically, or where all the diligence stuff is you log in. You've got a fund in a different way, but it's going to source this because that's so big, and that's what a big institutional fund does. If you're a big person, if you're a big boy raising big dollars, and you're trying to go to uber wealthy people to go get it, they expect to have this data room. They expect to diligence it.
Yeah, they want to send it to somebody to say, go through all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, go find the settlement statements.
Here's all of our stuff we've used to base this on. Our track history, our methodology we used, our assumptions we made, validate who we are even. Like it's all in there. And and I think for the investor side, anyone doing that, that's a lot of people are like, well, how do I do due diligence on someone? Well, ask them for this. They should have this in a fund structure. Now, maybe I get the cash partner deal, I'm not going to expect this. Or even in a private lender deal, I might not expect it. Somebody still wants some track history, but where you've packaged it all together for an investor to oversee, to look at is freaking awesome. I love it.
Yeah, just real quick. Some people have the same question I had in the beginning. I now figured it out, but they're saying, are you investing in fix and flips?
Yes, great question. Both, right? So with this fund and with this debt, it's primarily going to be fix and flip, but I could also go, I find numbers. I wanted to share this rule of thumb for people because trying to figure out like what's a good deal, what's not. It's called the 1% rule. Like if the monthly rent divided by the total purchase price is 1%, it's typically going to be a good cash flowing deal, right? And nowadays, you really can't find those, right?
They're hard to find.
They're hard to find, right? But we still, because again, Wyoming prices are a little bit lower, but they're still strong rents, we're able to still find deals like that. So the reason I share that is we can actually still make a deal pencil paying 12% on the back end. And that's how,
to hold.
Yeah, exactly, to hold, right? So because the reason I wanted to be continuous and have multiple deals is I've been doing this for years, right? And I've thought about the timing of like, okay, say you finish a flip, now you got to put that money back to work. But what I found is when I'm working with my private money lenders is we're almost always putting them immediately into another deal, right? To where we're trying to, it's a little bit of a puzzle piece, but we wanted to put them immediately into a deal. And I've just moved other properties where, okay, I've got good equity, for example, like Pay said earlier, like on my house, it's gone up in value. And I've got a couple actually properties where I'm doing medium-term rentals and they perform really well. And they have really good equity. So quick numbers, house, I owe $500K, house is worth about $1 million now, but the thing's cash flowing, or it's making about $7,000, $8,000 a month as a medium-term rental, right? But I've got a 2.75% loan, so I'm not refinancing to get that equity out.
No.
So what I do is I'll go put somebody in second position, and I'll go up to maybe 70 or 75%, but it still services. Right. And the reason I'm sharing that is we'll do that same model within this fund. If it'll still pencil as a buy and hold, then we can move it in.
Okay, and this is for accredited investors only?
Yes, good point. I did not cover that. It was on the slide, but I didn't say that out loud. Yep.
Okay.
Let me ask this. So there's the debt fund, and this is a separate fund from the equity fund. That's another
Yes.
pooled vehicle type thing. So you've got the debt fund. If I go into it, let's say, and I want to do $100,000 into it, I'm getting a 12% annual rate of return.
Yep.
Now, the fund is paying me that 12%. You take that debt fund and lend it to your other entity that owns the property,
Correct.
who enters into a note and a deed of trust. The debt fund puts the mortgage or deed of trust against your other entity that owns the property and
Yep.
doing the flip. This is how it's going.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Okay. This is good. And so now you are the borrower. So there's a conflict of interest here a little
Absolutely.
bit. Okay. So how have you thought through that? And this is common.
Yes.
So this is just like there is an inherent conflict of interest though.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I'm the manager of my LLC that's doing the fix and flip, right?
It's
I'm
on the
also
borrowing
the
side.
manager, on the flips, and I'm also the manager of the fund, right?
Right.
So that's where it comes down to the underwriting and them seeing how we're doing it, and them counting on. And again, that's why it's a fund, and there's trust in my track record that I'm going to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And I'm incentivized to do. I mean, yeah, there's obviously no incentive for me to go and default, right? And it's really based on the underwriting. So I have my PPM, right, like any other fund, but with my customizable fund, we have deal disclosures on the deal level, right? So for example, this Lilac Way was a deal we did in the fund, and it has its own deal disclosure. It was also secured with the deed of trust, right? But this one it'll have multiple deeds in cross collateralized, right? But in my deal disclosure, I outline what are we buying, right? We only, for example, lend up to 75% of ARV. Right, and it's really we're treating it like a hard money lender, right?
Yeah.
Would.
Yeah, and so what would happen like in this scenario where you have to go short? Like a deal goes, the amount that the fund has lent to your operating entity that owns that property is the debt is more than what you can sell it for. You're upside down basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you still does your operating company still owe on that? I presume, and would still be responsible for the. I mean, they lose the security, but did they sell it short? I don't know if that's addressed in the docs or.
Yeah. So maybe to explain it.
I'm always worst case scenario.
Absolutely.
Guys. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
If everybody's making money, nobody cares about this stuff.
Yeah. And I compare it to doing just like one deal, and there's a lot of people I work with, Matt, right? That they just want to be one deal because if it goes sideways, they want to be the ones stepping in and being able to save it.
Yeah,
right?
But the con to that, and it's because I like what you're doing. Don't get me wrong. And so please, everybody know this is like lawyer math, and I'm like, because on the one hand, and I'm on this side too. When I'm private lending the money at 12% interest, is then you close the deal and you send it back to me, and it sits in my account for a month.
Yep.
And I'm like, damn it.
Yes.
I lost a whole month.
Yeah, then you're not really getting 12%.
Either.
Your effective rate of return is like 9.5% because you missed out on 3 months of return or whatever.
But I like that I had control on the deed of trust or mortgage. It made me feel a little more safer.
Yes.
But over here in the debt fund model, where almost all of those have this conflict of interest issue, it's just not how you've structured it. It's just how those are done. Pretty much. The person raising it is lending it to themselves or their friendly entity. I am one step removed from the lien, and you're in the middle there. So there can kind of be that conflict. So that's what I'm trying to just get a good feel around, and I think that would, like if I'm advising a client, and even just for myself, because I'm thinking about your deal and doing it, is feeling good about that.
Yeah, and I think it's the cross collateral, right? Like if you go, because you ultimately, Matt doesn't want to take this property back, right? He mentioned earlier about the return on hustle.
Yeah.
He does not want to take it back.
No.
So, and you do run that risk if it's a single property, as we know, and fixing and flipping is inherently risky, right? So so you could play both sides, right? The one side is I could step in, I got more control. On this side where I'm doing it, you can't do that. I think the other counter to that is now we're spreading it across 5, 10 different properties, right? There will be some inevitably probably that don't go as well, and I'm going to have to cover those, right? But I'm also going to have ones that go really well. But at the end of the day, my borrower, the borrower, which would be my LLC, the flipping company, right? I keep all the upside, and the reason why I love Pace talked about it earlier, right? When you do enough deals and you could borrow in debt, I want to keep the upside of my flips. So there's some flips I'm going to crush and we're going to make 50K. There's some flips, and we've lived it. I could point to some that have still happened in the last couple of years where I broke even or I lost 10K, right? But I'm still paying that 12% no matter what. And what I like to say is like, because it's cross-collateralized, the probability of like all of them going sideways versus a couple, I think it de-risks it.
It's a great point.
Okay.
I have 2 questions. That's okay.
Yeah.
Mike?
You don't need to ask for permission.
Sorry. One is, in order to hedge some of that potential downside, are you keeping any reserves should there be a risk of losing? So like, hey, no matter what, we're going to keep $100K set aside to make these 12%,
Yeah, to make the
investors whole, right? Lenders. And then the other is, there's a lot of Casey's in sub 2, right? And by the way, you were an engineer, because I just told him that could have said Casey studies, and that would have been better branding. But
yeah.
anyways,
Man. Yes.
okay. So with so many folks in the community, where you could just be the lender and lose the conflict of lending to yourself. So anyways, those 2 things.
Yes. Okay. So I'm working that into my disclosures to where I can do that, because I also, if I go take in 4 million as our goal, I got to keep it working, right? And that's why I'm excited about Problems to Profits, is like being able to do more deals with other people, because there's so many deals we underwrite where it's a deal, but can we go find somebody at 12%? And I always tell the students on the call, I'm like, not many people can go borrow at 12%, no points, right? You got to have experience. But if I can go create this, and now I can go partner and do more deals with these guys, like that's my ultimate goal, is to do both, right? But again, the pro and the con. The pro is now it's a different operator, but at least I can underwrite it and look at it. But I think the other benefit of me being the borrower and the fund manager is that we know who we're working with, right? I know my track record. I know, and back to the vertically integrated company, like I've got way more bonus slides that we won't get to. But like what I think makes us most unique is the vertical integration, because you can lose money, you can buy a bad deal, right? You can have issues with contractors, you can have bad property management, right? But if one of those goes sideways, we've got the other 2 that are still going to be profitable, right? So it allows me to lose, to go miss,
Hedge.
like there's the hedge, right? And back to your first question, right? So that's the biggest way I'm hedging, is some of these are just going to be good cash flowing rentals, right? That are going to be spitting off cash flow, right? And then, but you're also going to have your fix and flips. One last thing I'll share with you guys, just a lesson learned the hard way, and I think it's worth sharing people that are watching this, or maybe have a self-directed IRA. If you're looking at a deal, you've always got to have 2 exits. And ask me how I know. I've lived it, and it's not fun, right? If you're flipping a house and your only exit is to flip that thing, I was doing this in DFW like 7 years ago, and we were flipping at a high price point. The market turned a little bit on us. We had bad contractors. We were using hard money, and it was not pretty. And the only option was to drop price and just lose it, just take it in the shorts.
Yes, write the check.
Exactly. So, but now, I learned that lesson the super hard way, to where a lot of these, that's why I love Wyoming, because I could still buy deals where if I get stuck, because that's the other thing too, is if things went completely sideways, it's 2008, like I'm going to hold these things, I'm going to fill them with rentals, and I'm buying them at a good enough price point to where I can still service the debt.
Okay, one last thing then.
Go ahead.
I see a man who's stretched thin in the way that you explain this now, because now you're working all of these verticals. Like, how can we become, and I'm just saying these things not because I believe that,
Yeah.
but to making sure that you have the brain capacity and the time capacity to rightfully manage what is going to be a good sized fund against all these projects ongoing. So I guess maybe clarify if you have other folks who are going to kind of help you oversee these elements.
Yes, dang it. I added the new slide last minute, but these guys got it going. I didn't make it on the final cut. I actually was going to share my org chart, but I'll just go back here.
I have it on this side.
You do?
Yeah.
Just swap it. Sweet. Oh yeah, I'll just show you their org chart, and then and I'll set a cool picture of our construction crew, because those guys.
TV to your left. TV to your left.
Oh, there it is. All right. Perfect.
Fantastic.
Here it is. Okay. So yeah, I'm glad you asked, Ingrid. So we, early on when I was working in oil and gas, it's me, right? It's me hustling, and it's still me hustling to this day. But at least now I have my COO, which is awesome slide deck he helped me with. He's actually was my marketing guy too. He was actually my marketing guy. Kind of grew into the COO, because this guy, man, yeah, you guys, I can't say this out too loud, but he is awesome. He's the first guy I've ever seen that cares as much about my business, and I didn't have to go give him a big equity stake.
What's his phone number?
Yeah. Yep, he's good. But anyway.
You got his name.
Yeah, you're right. His name's right there.
Oh, we're skip tracing.
Or no,
Somebody's
you know
skip
what?
tracing him right now.
Yeah, I did put it. But anyway, so he's the one running it, right? He's actually the project manager. He oversees the 4 contractors, right? Or my 4 foremen. And then again, property management, they report up through him. We did have a property manager, which we got rid of. So he's helping there, and eventually we'll backfill that. And then sales, I'm still very involved in sales, right? I have a sales manager and I have VAs, and they're driving the leads, right? And I'm working with the students, and I'm still ultimately love helping close, right? But my goal in Q1, actually, because again, I've been spending a lot of time planning what are my goals? I want to do 100 deals. And my thought was, I got to make sure I'm there to help close deals, because as you close deals, you really start snowballing, right? Especially as the year goes. So I'm still very involved in helping make sure we're getting deals done, right? But then, yeah, I've created these 3 verticals and people managing it. So my ultimate goal is I've got a sales director, and I've got my project manager, and I've got my property manager, and I could be a true CEO, right? I would love, as you can see, I love speaking, I love helping people, and if I could be doing more of that, that's my ultimate dream.
Love it. That's very EOS model right there.
That's right.
I love it. It's great, by the way. Great org chart.
Thank you. That's thanks to COO.
That was a great answer to your question too, huh?
Yes,
He had it in his deck.
I love it. Yeah.
That's right.
Nice deck. Yeah.
And EOS is tough. I read that book years ago, and I tried to apply it immediately. It was when we had the Pure Bar franchises, and I was trying to do it, and it was always, and now I realize looking back, like that's not an easy system to do.
It's not.
Yeah.
You guys are probably big enough to do it.
Yeah. I mean, well, you got the vision. I mean, there's a lot of versions that came from that traction, scaling up, but they all kind of gone off of this EOS, entrepreneurial operating systems and structures. So, but you've got like balance of the visionary, the integration, which I think is like the key.
This was really good.
Thanks, man.
Like phenomenal.
It was fun giving it. It was fun putting it together. And
put your contact info up there, brother.
Yeah.
Like,
what was
come on.
this? This is 506C. Accredited investor.
Accredited, yep.
Okay.
Accredited investor. And there's the equity one too. So we just finished one up at the end of last year where we raised about $2 million. Because the other thing I'm loving doing is again, we can find the deal, fix it up, and manage it long term. So what I'm finding is it's fun to bundle I did this at the end of the year, we bundle them up, and it's the depreciation thing, right? Fine. I worked with, they're actually, again, Sub-2 community. These guys were in Gators. They had had a really successful year lending out as Gators and were showing a lot of profits. Well, we partnered together, and I bundled up a big bundle of my properties, moved them into a partnership, and they bought them. They got the depreciation, and I was able to recapture some of my cash out of these deals. So anyway, I'm going to set up another one of those this year, which will be equity and more of like a preferred return waterfall split.
Cool.
Too deep to go right now. But.
What if I raised money for you and I had unlimited ability to bring cash to the table? Could I get a better percentage?
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, whether it's Pace or anyone, like that's where let's get on the phone and let's talk about, that's where I talk equity deals. So for example, this Hillside one, right? This Hillside was the first really large multifamily deal I did, and I brought in a partner, and he co-signed, it was a big enough loan to where I needed a co-signer based on balance sheet. And again, this is still a couple of years ago as I was growing. But yeah, we did that one 50-50, and it's basically a burr strategy that we're hoping to refinance here in the next couple of months and get our capital back and hold it long term.
I love it, because I have a legal ability to raise basically unlimited non-accredited money. Something I've been working on with my securities attorney. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh, this is I could raise $4 million for this and put endless amount of people into this deal. But we should have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's what it comes down to, right? If it's bigger, I almost had a slide on that. If it's bigger amounts, because I was talking to Bo. Bo's like, are you ready? If somebody writes you a $4 million check and you have a flexible fund and they request it in 90 days, is that going to work, Casey? I'm like, well, if somebody's going to write me a $4 million check, we're going to talk about structuring a little bit different, right? Yeah. And figure out something that's win-win for everybody.
Will you put the contact information as the main slide up there, Eric, real quick? Thank you so much for that. Guys, reach out to Casey Gregerson. He's freaking awesome, a great leader inside of Sub-2. He's been running a Zoom for, has it been a year?
Yeah, I reached out about 7 months, not straight every Friday.
Freaking unbelievable. So good. Great job, man. This is awesome. Thank you so much. Casey Gregerson, everybody. Thank you.